If you're listening late at night, you might want to stay until the end. Something happened to me, and to this day, I can't understand it. My name is Marcus, and I work in night boarding control at Denver International Airport. The night shift. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 nights a week. Most people don't know this, but airports never truly sleep. They just slow down. They become empty, silent. And in that silence, strange things begin to happen. I accepted this shift 6 months ago, right after my divorce. I couldn't bear going back to that empty apartment in Boulder anymore, where every room still smelled of her. I preferred the cold hallways of Wing C, the constant hum of the air conditioning, the echo of my own footsteps. At least here, solitude made sense. The routine was always the same. I monitor the active gates, check boarding lists, process delays, and reopen gates when necessary. After 2 a.m., almost nothing happens. Just occasional cargo flights and the heavy silence that hangs over the empty terminals. It was on a Tuesday at 2:17 a.m. that I saw it for the first time. I was in the control room, navigating between the security cameras, when my system issued an alert. Gate E7, active, boarding in progress. I frowned. There were no flights scheduled for the E7. In fact, the E7 no longer existed, at least not officially. That gate was sealed 4 years ago, after the airline that used it went bankrupt. It's locked, isolated, without power. I clicked to check. The system showed 34 passengers waiting to board, flight not identified. My first thought was a technical failure, some kind of software bug. I tried resetting it. Nothing. The gate remained active. The numbers kept increasing. 36 passengers, 38 passengers. I grabbed my radio and called security. This is Marcus, boarding control. Can someone check gate E7 for me? The system is showing strange activity, static. Then the tired voice of Jim, the security guard. E7. Marcus, that gate is sealed. There's not even a light there. I know. But the system says there are people waiting. Silence. Then, do you want me to go there? No, I'll go, just keep an eye on the cameras. I left the control room. The hallway was empty, lit by those fluorescent lights that flicker occasionally. My footsteps echoed against the polished floor. The air was cold, colder than usual. The closer I got to Wing E, the denser the silence became. Heavy, as if the very air was holding its breath. And then I saw, at the end of the corridor, in front of gate E7, there was a queue, a line of people. They stood there, motionless, with their backs to me. Men, women, some with carry-on bags, dressed normally, coats, jeans, sneakers. No one spoke, no one moved. They just waited. My heart raced. Excuse me. My voice came out trembling. No one answered. No one turned around. I took a few more steps. The temperature dropped even further. My breath formed white clouds in the air. That's when I realized something was wrong. Gate E7 was covered in rusty chains, an old padlock hanging from the glass door. Out of operation. Stickers covered the entrance. And yet, even so, those people were there, waiting to board. I picked up the radio with trembling hands. Jim, are you seeing this on the cameras? What are you looking at? The people, in front of the E7. Long pause. Marcus, there's nobody there. Guided. What do you mean there's nobody here? There are at least 40 people here. I'm looking at the camera now. Empty hallway, man. Just you. I looked at the people in front of me. They remained motionless, silent. And then, slowly, one of them turned her head, and he looked me straight in the eyes. Run. I'm not proud of it, but I ran like a coward, tripping over my own feet, the radio almost slipping from my hand. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if they followed me. When I got to the control room, I locked the door and leaned against it, breathing heavily. Jim was waiting for me on the radio. Marcus, are you okay? I saw people, Jim. I swear to God I saw them. Dude, the cameras are so clean. Nothing. Didn't you sleep well? Maybe he was right. Maybe it was the sleepless nights, the divorce, the medication I had stopped taking. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I stayed in control for the rest of the night, avoiding looking at the monitors in E-Wing. At 4:32 a.m., the alert disappeared. Gate E7 inactive. I tried to convince myself it was just tiredness, a hallucination, stress. But 3 nights later, it happened again. 2:11 a.m., Gate E7 active, 52 passengers waiting. My stomach churned. I stared at the screen, my palms sweating, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to see that again. But something was pulling me back. A morbid need for confirmation, to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. This time, I took my cell phone. I would film everything. The hallway was even colder. My breath came out in thick gasps. And there they were again. More people this time. The line was longer, snaking down the aisle. Everyone with their backs turned. Everyone in absolute silence. I picked up my phone, my hands trembling, and pressed record. It's all here, I murmured to myself. It's all here. I'm not crazy. I took 1 step closer, 2, 3, and then I did something I should never have done. I touched one of them on the shoulder. The texture was strange. Not exactly solid. Like touching dense fog, with some resistance, but no warmth, lifeless. The person turned slowly. She was a woman, about 40 years old, gray hair tied in a bun, empty, glazed eyes, staring right through me. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Just a slow, repetitive lip movement, as if trying to say something. I stepped back, tripping over someone behind me. I turned quickly, a man in a suit. Same dead stare. Same mouth moving silently. They all began to turn around. One by one, dozens of pale faces, empty eyes, mute mouths forming words I couldn't hear. That's when I recognized one of them. In the middle of the line, a face I recognized. David Chen, my colleague. He worked the day shift with me. He was standing there, wearing the same blue airline uniform, staring blankly into space. David. My voice faltered. He didn't answer. He didn't even blink. I picked up my cell phone, which was still recording, and called the supervisor for the day. Hello, Marcus. It's almost 3 in the morning, man. Is David there? Did he go to work today? David. No, Marcus, David died last week. Car accident on I-25. Didn't you go to the funeral? My cell phone slipped from my hand. I looked back at the line. David was still there, motionless, with that empty stare. When I got home that morning, I watched the video I had recorded. Black screen, only my panting breath and the echoing of my footsteps. No one, no line, just me, walking alone down an empty hallway, talking to nothing. I spent the day trying to research Gate E7, old files, news, anything. I found an article from 2019. Technical failure at Gate E7 results in catastrophic delay. Passengers stranded for 14 hours without explanation. And another one from 2020. Gate E7 officially deactivated following FAA investigation. But it was the third piece of news that took my breath away. A forum for airport employees. An old post from 2018. Has anyone else seen the ghost passengers on the E7? I work the night shift and I swear I've seen people waiting there, but the cameras never catch anything. My supervisor said it's just tiredness. But I know what I saw. And the answer, some comments below. Dude, get out of this shift while you can. My name showed up on an old E7 passenger list 3 days before I had an accident. I barely survived. I never went back. My mouth went dry. I opened the airport system, accessed the historical records for Gate E7, and searched for old boarding lists. I scrolled down. Names, dates, canceled flights, and then I saw Marcus Sullivan, Flight 447, Gate E7. Departure date, November 19th, 2024. Today was November 18th. I didn't sleep that day. I sat on the sofa in my empty apartment, staring at that boarding pass on my laptop. My name, my date of birth. Everything correct. As if someone had registered me for a flight that never happened. I called in sick to work. I said I couldn't come back. Not that night, but at 11 p.m., my supervisor called me. Marcus, I need you to come. Steve didn't show up. You're the only one who knows the night system. I can't. Marcus, please. Just for tonight. I'll pay you overtime. I hung up. I stared at the ceiling. You could just not go. Pretend you were really sick. But something inside me. Something told me that running away wouldn't solve anything. If my name was on that list, it didn't matter where I was. I arrived at the airport at 11:47 p.m. The parking lot was almost empty. The cold November wind whipped my face as I walked to the employee entrance. Jim was on security, as always. I thought you were sick. I thought so too. He looked at me strangely, but didn't say anything. I went straight to the control room. I sat in my chair. The monitors blinked softly. Everything normal. Everything silent. 2:03 a.m. Nothing yet. 2:08. My heart started racing. 2:11. Gate E7. Active. 67 passengers waiting to board. My hands trembled on the keyboard. This time, I knew what I would find there, and yet, even so, I needed to go. I got up. I left the room. The hallway was freezing, too quiet, and there they were, more numerous than before. The line stretched as far as the eye could see. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, all motionless, all silent. I walked among them. Nobody moved. Nobody looked. I recognized faces. The woman with gray hair, the man in the suit, David Chen, still in his blue uniform, and others. Faces I didn't recognize, but that seemed familiar. As if I'd seen them in old photos, news, obituaries. I even made it to the front of the line. Gate E7 looked different. The chains had disappeared. The padlock was gone. The glass door was ajar, emitting a faint, pulsating bluish light from within. And then I heard it. My name. Not through the loudspeakers, not through the radio. A voice. Soft. Feminine. Familiar. Marcus. Guided. It was Sarah's voice. My ex-wife. Marcus. You need to get on board now. I looked everywhere. She wasn't there. But the voice continued, echoing from nowhere. You always knew you belonged here. From the very beginning. Sarah? My voice came out broken. Get on board, Marcus. It's time. I looked at the gate. The bluish light pulsed brighter. From inside, I heard sounds, distant voices, murmurs, as if there were a plane waiting. A plane full of people. I took a step towards the door, and then I stopped. Something wasn't right. Sarah would never call me that. She would never use that tone. And besides, Sarah was alive. I had seen her last week, gathering her last belongings from the apartment. You are not her, I whispered. The voice stopped. The silence grew thick, heavy, threatening. And then, all the passengers turned their heads at the same time, looking at me, mouths opening, empty eyes fixed on my face. And this time, I listened. A collective whisper. Dozens of voices at once, all saying the same thing. Get on board! Get on board! Get on board! The door to gate E7 swung open completely. The bluish light engulfed me. I felt my feet moving on their own, pulling me inside. I fought. I retreated. I screamed. And then I ran. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life. Whispers followed me through the corridors. echoing off the walls, in the lights, in the air. I left the airport. I got in the car. I accelerated. I resigned the next day. By email. I never went back. But sometimes, when I'm driving alone at night, or when I wake up at 2 a.m. and the house is too quiet, I hear it. That whisper, get on board. And the worst part of all, 3 weeks ago, I was at the supermarket, in the checkout line. I looked to the side and saw my reflection in the refrigerator glass. I was there. But behind me, in the reflection, there was a line of people, motionless, silent, and they were all looking at me. I no longer work at airports. I got a daytime job, far away from night shifts. But I know that's not the end of it. Because yesterday, when I checked my email, there was a message, boarding confirmation, flight 447, gate E7, no date, no time, just shortly. Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I worked alone, completely alone. Lost and found baggage department, Denver International Airport, basement level D, night shift, midnight to 6 in the morning. 8 months doing that. 8 months without seeing anyone except the security guard who passed by once a night. Always in a hurry, always avoiding conversation. Staff cuts, they said. Cost cutting, they said. I accepted because I needed the money. Recent divorce, overdue bills, chronic insomnia that made any daytime work impossible. So, why not? Spend the entire night in a fluorescent basement, surrounded by abandoned suitcases and idle conveyor belts. It seemed simple, and it was, until it was. Basement D is exactly what you imagine. Flashing white lights, the smell of old rubber and mold, heavy air conditioning that makes you forget if it's winter or summer outside. 7 conveyor belts, all turned off after midnight. My job? Cataloging bags that no one has claimed, checking the system, drinking reheated coffee, and waiting for my shift to end. Silence. A great deal of silence. You start hearing things when you work alone for too long. The hum of the air conditioner becomes a voice. The crack of metal cooling becomes footsteps. I learned to ignore it. I learned not to look into dark corners. I learned not to think. But Treadmill 7, that one was always different. All the others automatically shut off at midnight. All of them, except for number 7. It kept turning on by itself, spinning empty, without stopping. I had already called maintenance 3 times. Electrical problem, they said. We'll fix it, they said. They never fixed it. I stopped calling. It was the 4th night of November. I remember because it was snowing outside. Something rare in Denver at that time. The basement was colder than usual. I was in the break room, watching something on my phone, when I heard it. The motor on Treadmill 7 revved up. It wasn't gradual. It was abrupt, like someone had suddenly turned a knob all the way to the max. I stood up slowly, looked through the fogged glass of the door. The conveyor belt was spinning fast, empty, as always, except it wasn't. There was a suitcase, a single, old, dark brown leather suitcase, spinning in perfect circles. Large, heavy, no tag, no visible identification. I looked at the clock on the wall. 3:17 a.m. I approached slowly. The conveyor belt continued spinning, noisy, almost aggressive. The bag passed in front of me, again, again, again. I picked up the scanner and pointed it at where the barcode should be. Nothing. I went back to the computer. I typed in the time. I checked the flights that had landed in the last 6 hours. None. No flights had arrived since 9:34 p.m. The airport was empty. A ghost town. So where from? I took a deep breath. System problem, I thought. Someone forgot to register it. Some employee from the previous shift let it slip. It happens. I decided to ignore it. I went back into the room, closed the door, and tried to focus on my phone. But then, I heard a sound. muffled, deep, coming from inside the suitcase. It wasn't the engine, it wasn't the creaking of the conveyor belt. It was something hitting from the inside. I should have left that night. I should have called someone. I should have done anything but go back. But I came back. The following night, I arrived earlier, 11:30. The basement was the same, cold, silent, lifeless. I sat in the break room and waited, coffee in hand, eyes on the clock. 3:15, 3:16, 3:17. The engine revved up, the same, exactly the same, as if it were programmed. I stood up slowly, my heart beating faster than it should. I looked through the glass door. There she was, the same suitcase, same color, same size, spinning, alone. This time, I didn't hesitate. I went straight to the computer and opened the security camera system. 8 different angles covered the basement. I rewound the recording 30 minutes. I sped it up. Nothing. The conveyor belts were empty. All stopped, except for number 7, which was spinning in a vacuum. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the camera flickered. Just for a second, a quick image glitch, and when it returned, the suitcase was there, as if it had always been that way. I felt my stomach churn. Technical glitch, I muttered to myself. Old camera, bugged system. But I knew he was lying. I approached the conveyor belt. Slowly, the suitcase passed in front of me, spinning, heavy, impossible to ignore. The leather was cracked, worn, no tag, no name, nothing. But it was hot. I reached out my hand. I touched. The surface radiated heat. It wasn't natural. It was like touching a feverish forehead. I instinctively recoiled, and then I heard it again. That sound. Scratches. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from within. Like fingernails dragging against the inner lining. And beneath that, something worse. Breathing. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't the air conditioning. It was human breathing. Gasping. Irregular. Is anyone in there? My voice came out weak, ridiculous. No one answered. Only the scratches. And the breathing. I tried to grab the suitcase. I gripped the side handle tightly and pulled. It didn't move. Impossible. The conveyor belt was moving, but the bag was stuck, as if it were part of it. I pulled again. Nothing. And then the treadmill stopped. Suddenly, without warning, total silence. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to disappear. I froze. The suitcase lay motionless in front of me, just inches away. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then she moved. Not the conveyor belt. The suitcase. She slid, alone, dragging herself across the still rubber, straight towards me, slowly, inch by inch, the leather scraping against the surface with a horrible, high-pitched sound. I stepped back. I stumbled. I fell on my back. The suitcase stopped. It stayed there, motionless, as if it were watching me. I got up. I ran. I locked myself in the break room. I leaned against the door, my breathing erratic, my hands trembling. From outside, I heard it. Steps. Slow. Dragging. Against the concrete floor, coming from the direction of conveyor belt 7, someone, or something, was walking. I pulled out my cell phone. I called security. I rang 6 times. No one answered. The footsteps stopped in front of the door. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. I held my breath. And then, a knock. 3 times. Slowly. Against the glass. I didn't look. I couldn't. I stayed there, huddled up, until the sun rose. When I left at 6 in the morning, conveyor belt 7 was stopped. Empty. No luggage. No trace. As if nothing had happened. But I knew. I had felt it. I had heard it. And the following night, she would be back. I should have quit my job over the phone. I should have disappeared. Blocked the number. move to another city, but I didn't, because I needed to know. I needed to understand. And a part of me, the stupid, suicidal part, couldn't accept that it was real. Last night, I promised myself. Last night, and I'm leaving. I arrived at 11. The basement was colder than usual. The lights were flickering more. The air conditioner was making a strange, guttural noise, as if it were choking. I sat down. I waited. 3:15. My phone vibrated. I looked at the screen. Flight notification. Flight 717. Estimated arrival. 3:17 am. My blood ran cold. There was no Flight 717. I had checked. The airport was empty. 3:16. I got up. I walked to the glass door. I looked at the conveyor belts. They all called. At the same time, all 7, spinning, empty. The noise was deafening, mechanical, violent, echoes pounding against the concrete walls. 3:17. Treadmill 7 sped up, and the suitcase appeared, but she wasn't alone. There were 2 identical, brown leather, cracked, no tag, spinning side by side, perfectly synchronized. I took a deep breath. I left the room. I approached, and then I saw, on the side of one of them, scribbled in black pen, shaky, almost illegible, my name, my full name. I stepped back. My hands were trembling. I pulled out my cell phone. I called security. Nothing. Deadline. I tried again. Silence. And then the other conveyor belts started. Lazy, appearing, one by one. On each conveyor belt, all the same. All brown. All old. Spinning, spinning, spinning. 7 conveyor belts. 14 suitcases. All identical. The noise was unbearable. Engines revving. Rubber scraping. And beneath it all, the sounds, scratches, from inside all of them, bruises, breath. I ran to the nearest one, the one with my name on it. I grabbed it. I pulled hard. She fell. Heavy, hot, vibrating in my hands. I put it down, my fingers trembling. I unzipped it, empty, but not completely. Inside, lined against the inner fabric, were photos. Dozens of them, printed, blurred, taped on. I grabbed one. It was me, in front of a house I've never visited, smiling, clothes I've never worn. Another photo, me, on a beach, alone, looking at the camera. Other, me, sleeping, in my room, window open. They weren't staged, they were real. But I've never been to those places. I dropped the photos. I stood up. I looked around. All the conveyor belts stopped. Absolute silence. And then the original briefcase, the one from conveyor belt 7, opened. Alone. The zipper slid slowly, creaking. The lid lifted. Something dark emerged from within. It wasn't smoke. It wasn't a shadow. It was dense, solid, moving. I couldn't see properly. My vision blurred. My head throbbed. Distorted sounds, flashing lights. I felt something touch my shoulder, cold, heavy. I'll come. Nothing. But I heard a voice, hoarse, close, almost inside my head. You've always been here. I fainted. I woke up in the hospital. They said the security guard found me unconscious at 6 in the morning. Dehydration, exhaustion, lack of sleep. I resigned that same day. I moved apartments. I blocked everything related to the airport. I tried to forget. But every night, at exactly 3:17 a.m., my cell phone vibrates. Even when switched off, even without a battery, the notification is always the same. Flight 717, estimated arrival. I never open it. But I know that one day, I'll have to open it. Because the suitcase is still waiting. And inside it, there's something of mine. Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I work, or used to work, as an air traffic controller in a regional tower in the middle of nowhere, west of South Dakota, small airport, sporadic cargo flights, a few private aircraft. Nothing that justified a 24-hour tower, but regulations are regulations. I accepted the night shift after my divorce. Fewer people, fewer questions, fewer pitying glances. 11 at night to 6 in the morning, 5 days a week, alone. The tower is 40 meters high. Glass all around, runway lights below like fireflies frozen in the darkness. Winter in Dakota is silent in a suffocating way. The fog comes in thick, swallowing everything. Sometimes I would go half an hour without seeing the ground. My job is simple: monitor frequencies, authorize landings and takeoffs when necessary, record traffic. But in the early morning hours, almost nothing happens. Just me, the constant buzzing of the radios, and the reheated coffee I brought from home. There are several frequencies. The main one, 118.3 MHz, is where pilots make contact. The others remain open in the background, low static, waiting. One of them, 127.50, never saw any real use. Technically active, but dead. I called it the ghost frequency. Nobody transmitted on it, ever. Until that Tuesday. It was 2:30 in the morning. Thick fog covered everything. I was looking at the radar, empty, as always, when I heard the static change in tone. It wasn't loud. It was intentional. As if someone had pressed the radio button but hesitated to speak. Then came the voice. "Tower, this is Transmark Flight 472, requesting clearance to land on runway 27. I paused. Transmark was no longer in operation. The company went bankrupt in the 1980s. I picked up the microphone. "Flight 472, please repeat the identification. You are on the wrong frequency." Silence. Then, the same voice, but with more interference. "Tower, we're low on fuel. I need immediate authorization." I checked the radar. Nothing. Empty sky. I switched to the main frequency. "Attention, an aircraft is attempting to contact you on 127.50. Please identify yourself on the correct frequency." Nothing. I switched back to 127.50. The voice was gone. Just static. I stood there with the earphone pressed against my ear, waiting. My heart was beating faster than it should. I thought it was a technical error, a reflection from an old transmission. Some idiot making a prank call. But the voice, it sounded tired, real, desperate. I noted everything in the log. Unidentified transmission, 0234H. Frequency, 127.50. Possible interference. I tried to continue the night. But every time I looked at the radio tuned to a dead frequency, I felt something was wrong. As if someone was waiting for me to stop paying attention. At 5 in the morning, when the fog began to clear, I heard it again. This time, the voice was crying. On the following nights, I arrived early. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe because my empty apartment was starting to seem smaller than that tower. The frequency was silent for 3 shifts. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it all. But on Friday, there it was again. "Tower, Transmark 472, please respond." This time I was prepared. I turned on automatic recording and grabbed the microphone. "Flight 472, identify your position and altitude." The response came in fragments, shrouded in static that seemed to pulsate. I can't see the instruments properly. There's fog. A lot of fog. "What is your current position?" I insisted, forcing my voice to sound firm. "I think we're close. The runway lights. I see the lights." I looked out the window. Thick fog. No aircraft lights in the sky. Radar completely clear. "Negative, 472. I don't have you on my radar. There is no traffic in the area." A long silence. Then, almost in a whisper, "Please, we've been trying to get back together for so long." The transmission cut out. I stared at the recording equipment. I rewound. I pressed play. Static. Just static. My own voice was there, but the other vanished, as if it had never existed. On Sunday, I went to the administrative office on the ground floor. Old files were kept in a dusty room that no one had touched in ages. I looked for Transmark. It took me 2 hours. I found Transmark Flight 472. Cessna freighter. Disappeared on March 17, 1983, en route between Rapid City and Bismarck. 2 crew members. Last communication, entering dense fog, reducing altitude. They never found any wreckage. They never found the bodies. 42 years ago. My stomach churned. I climbed back up to the tower, my hands trembling. I turned everything on, tuned to 12750, and waited. Midnight. 1 in the morning. Nothing. 2:15. The situation has changed, but this time it wasn't Transmark. Tower. This is Piper November 7 to 3 Kilo, requesting vector for approach. Another voice. Younger. A different code. I frantically searched through the records I had brought with me. Piper N73K, missing since 1976. Private flight, pilot alone. Last position, 80 miles north of here. I'm lost. The voice continued. My compass is spinning. I don't know where I am. My breath caught in my throat. Tower. Is anyone listening to me? I forced the words out. I'm listening. Thank God. I need help. I've been flying for hours. I'm out of fuel. I think I'll have to land soon. He didn't know. He didn't know he had been dead for almost 50 years. What? What is the date today? I asked, my voice breaking. Long pause. December of 76. Why? I turned off the microphone and stepped back from the table, slapping the back of my chair. The radio continued broadcasting. Tower, tower, are you still there? Please, don't leave me alone here. I stood there, in the middle of that glass room suspended in the void, listening to a dead man plead for help while the fog outside pressed against the windows like something alive. And then I heard it. Steps. On the metal staircase. Going up. My footsteps stopped on the 13th step. I know because I counted each one as I silently climbed the emergency stairs. My breath caught. My heart pounding in my ear. Nothing. Nobody. Just the closed door swinging slightly, as if someone had just let go of it. I went back to the tower. I locked the door from the inside. Ridiculous, I know. Lock a door against what? Against whom? I spent the rest of that night in absolute silence. The 12750 frequency was muted, not even static, an emptiness that hurt my ears. I thought about asking for a transfer. I thought about simply disappearing. But something was pulling me back. Every night I returned. Every night I tuned into that dead frequency. And then Tuesday came. It was 3:47 in the morning, the densest fog I'd ever seen. I couldn't even see the runway lights. I was alone inside a glass bubble floating in nothingness. The silence was broken all at once. It wasn't one voice. It was several, all at the same time. Tower, requesting authorization. I need an approximation vector. How long have we been here? Please, let us land. We just want to go home. 10, 15, maybe 20 overlapping voices. Men, women, some crying, others just tired, all transmitting on the same impossible frequency. I looked at the radar. Echoes, dozens of them, appearing out of nowhere, converging on the airport. Flight code after flight code flashing on the screen. Some I recognized from searches, others were new. All dead, all missing. Some for decades. Tower. That voice cut through all the others. Clear, firm, and terribly familiar. This is Beechcraft, November 2 the 8th, Charlie, requesting final landing clearance. My blood froze. N28C. I knew that code. I knew it because I had flown it, with my instructor, with Robert Haynes, who taught me to fly when I was 19. Robert died in a plane crash 7 years later. Mechanical failure. The crash occurred in the middle of Wyoming. They found the wreckage, but his body was never fully recovered. "Robert," my voice came out hoarse, unrecognizable. "Tower," he continued, and I realized something. He wasn't answering me. He was repeating, like a recording. "We are ready for final approach." "Robert, it's me," I shouted into the microphone. "Do you recognize me?" "Runway lights confirmed. Beginning descent." I looked out the window, and I saw lights, small, flickering, descending through the fog. They weren't aircraft lights. They were different, cold, like drowned fireflies, dozens of them, descending in formation, straight to the runways. The radar went haywire, alarms blared, echoes multiplied. Everyone was getting closer. "Tower, I need authorization," Robert's voice, finally directed at me. Direct, real. "Tower, authorize." All the voices shouted at the same time. My hand trembled on the microphone. I knew it shouldn't. I knew something was wrong. But it was Robert, my friend, my teacher. I pressed the button. Flight November 28. Charlie, cleared for landing, runway 27. The silence that followed was absolute, as if the world had been switched off. The lights went out. The radar cleared. The static died down. I stood there, alone, trembling, as the sun began to rise through the mist. That was 3 weeks ago. I still work here. Night shift. Alone. Frequency 12750 has been silent ever since. But every night, at exactly 3:47, I hear footsteps on the stairs. They climb. They stop on the 13th step. And they wait. Sometimes I wonder. I gave landing clearance. But where exactly did they land? Because when the sun rose that morning and the fog finally lifted, I went to runway 27. It was covered in marks, tire marks, dozens of them, intertwined, old and recent at the same time. And in the center, written in the damp earth as if someone had dragged their finger across it, "Thanks." Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I work, or used to work, as a night cleaning supervisor at Cedar Falls International Airport, Indiana. The overnight shift, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., always alone. Most people don't know this, but airports have parts that die, entire terminals that simply stop. They just sit there, forgotten, locked up, waiting for a renovation that never comes. The old wing of Cedar Falls has been like this since 2019. 4 years abandoned, no passengers, no shops, no life, just me. My job was simple: mopping, emptying trash cans that no one filled, making sure mold didn't take over everything. 4 hours of silence, echoes, and flickering fluorescent lights. I actually liked it. After my divorce, I prefer empty places. No questions, no stares. But there's one place in the old wing that has always bothered me. The men's restroom at gate 14. I can't really explain it. From the first time I went in there, I felt something was wrong. It wasn't fear, it was discomfort. You know when you feel like you shouldn't be somewhere? That's what it was. The bathroom is old. Cracked white tiles, stained mirrors, 3 rusty metal stalls, 4 urinals. Smells of cleaning product mixed with mold. Everything normal. Everything dead. Until the night I wasn't there. It was a Tuesday in November. Biting cold outside. That kind of damp cold that gets into your bones. I went into the bathroom around 2:30 in the morning, as I always did. I opened the door and stopped. The faucet in the main sink was dripping. It wasn't an old leak. It was fresh water, dripping slowly, making that high-pitched sound that echoes off tiles. Ping, ping, ping. I thought, it must have been left loose yesterday. I went over there and closed it firmly. The water stopped. I grabbed the cloth and started cleaning the mirrors. That's when I noticed the central mirror was fogged up. Not entirely, just a part. Like someone who had just taken a hot shower and the steam was still fresh. I ran my hand over it. It was damp. Cold, but damp. I looked around. The cabins were empty, obviously. Nobody went in there. The old wing was locked. I had the only key. Humidity, I thought. This place is old. Old pipes. Condensation. I cleaned the mirror and left. But as I was leaving, I felt something. A presence. I saw nothing. I heard nothing. But I felt it. As if someone were watching me through the glass. As if I had invaded a space that wasn't mine. I locked the door and continued with the rest of the cleaning. The following night, I went back to the bathroom. The tap was dripping again, and the mirror fogged up. And this time, when I looked closer, I saw something that made my stomach churn. In the vapor of the mirror, there was a mark, a handprint, 5 fingers. Perfect. As if someone had pressed their palm against the glass. But nobody was there. Nobody could be there. I should have stopped there. I should have locked that bathroom and never come back. But I couldn't. It was my job. And worse, I needed to understand. In the following days, things got worse. Every night, without exception, when I went into the bathroom at gate 14, the same scene, dripping faucet, foggy mirror, handprint. Always the same hand, always in the same place, as if someone was waiting for me to arrive to leave that mark. I tried to explain. Condensation, I told myself. Air, humidity, pressure in the pipes. Anything but admitting what I really felt, that someone was using that bathroom. But how? The old wing was locked with an electronic padlock. I had the only access card. The security cameras had been turned off since 2019 when the wing was closed. There were no windows. There was no other entrance. And yet, someone was there. I started noticing more things. The drain in one of the cabins would be activated. Not every night, but sometimes. I'd hear the noise when I was cleaning the mirrors. A strong jet of water. Then silence. I'd go over there, open the cabin door. Empty. But the seat was damp. And what was worse, there were footprints on the floor around the vase. Wet footprints. Barefoot. As if someone had just gotten out of the bath and walked all the way there. They disappeared after a few steps. They evaporated. As if they had never existed. I went to my supervisor, a guy named Derek, who worked the administrative shift. He was a veteran, 23 years at the airport. If anyone knew anything, it was him. "Derek," I said, "there's something wrong in the bathroom at gate 14. He stopped typing. He looked at me. His expression changed. "What did you see?" "Signs of use, running water, footprints, marks." He remained quiet for a long time. Too long. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "You clean the place and leave. Don't snoop around. Don't try to understand. Do your job and go." "But there was an incident," he interrupted, "in 2018. Before they closed the wing. It wasn't publicized. It's not in any official report, but it happened." "What type of incident?" Derek looked away. "A passenger disappeared. He went into the bathroom at gate 14 and never came out again. They searched everywhere. Sniff-a-dog, security team, police. Nothing. He simply vanished. I felt a chill run down my spine. And then what? Then they closed the wing. They said it was for renovations, but it wasn't. Nobody was supposed to go in there. He looked me in the eyes. "So don't go in, understand? Wipe it clean and leave." But I couldn't follow the advice. That night, I went back to the bathroom. But this time, I took my cell phone. I wanted to record it. I wanted proof. I entered slowly. The fluorescent light flickered as usual. The air was colder than normal. Ice cream, actually. My breath formed white clouds. The tap was open, not dripping. Open. Water running strong. I closed it. My hand was trembling. That's when I heard steps, wet footsteps, coming from inside one of the cabins. Chap, chap, chap. Slow, deliberate, as if someone were walking barefoot on a wet floor. I froze it. Is anyone there? My voice came out weak. The footsteps stopped. Absolute silence. I took a deep breath. I pushed open the door of the first cabin. Empty. Second cabin. Empty. Third cabin. When I opened it, the air rushed out of my lungs. The toilet was overflowing. Dark. Almost black water was running across the floor and onto the seat. There was a wet mark, as if someone had just gotten up. And then I felt it. One breath. Behind me. Slow. Damp. Too close. I turned slowly. In the mirror, reflected behind me, there was a silhouette. Stop. Observing. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. The silhouette tilted its head. And then it disappeared. I ran. I didn't clean anything else. I left that bathroom and locked the door with my hands trembling so much I almost dropped the key. But I knew it wasn't over. I went 3 days without going back to the bathroom at gate 14. I cleaned the rest of the old wing, ignored that door, pretended it didn't exist. But every night, when I passed by, I felt it. That presence. Waiting. Patiently. Derek called me on the 4th day. Are you still cleaning the ward? Yes. But I'm not going into that bathroom anymore. Good. Keep it up. There was a pause. But, if you want to know, he said, his voice strangely low, the guy who disappeared, they never found the body, but they found something. What? Handprints. Dozens of them. On the mirrors, on the walls of the cabins, on the ceiling. As if he had tried to get out from somewhere. As if something had pulled him inside. Derek hung up before I could answer. That night, I made a decision. I was going to go into the bathroom. I was going to face it, because not being able to sleep, not being able to close my eyes without seeing that silhouette, that was worse than any fear. I arrived at gate 14 at 3:17 a.m., the deadliest time of the night, when even the silence seems afraid to make a sound. Opened the door. The bathroom was different. All the taps were running. Water gushed out, filling the sinks, overflowing onto the floor. The sound was deafening. All the mirrors were fogged up, covered in thick steam, and in the cubicles, the doors slammed shut on their own, opening and closing, in a hypnotic and morbid rhythm. Bang, bang, bang. The temperature plummeted. I could see my breath, thick as smoke. The cold burned my skin. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice echoing against the tile. The taps stopped running. The doors stopped slamming. Silence. And then, in all the mirrors at the same time, they began to appear. Handprints, dozens, hundreds, covering every inch of glass. Small, large, overlapping, desperate. As if thousands of people had tried to get out. Pushing, scratching, begging. And on the central mirror, right in front of me, a message was being written. Slowly, letter by letter, as if invisible fingers were tracing in the steam. "You shouldn't be here." My heart stopped. The light flickered. Once. Twice. It was deleted. Total darkness. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear. Breathing. It wasn't mine. There were several, all around me, close by. Wet, panting. As if multiple people were surrounding me. Breathing on my neck. In my ear. On the back of my neck. I felt something touch my shoulder. A cold hand. Wet. firm. I screamed and ran. I don't know how I found the door. I don't know how I managed to get out. I only remember running down the empty corridor of the old wing, stumbling, falling, getting up, running some more. When I arrived at the new terminal, I collapsed on the floor. Security guards came and took me to the infirmary. They said I was in shock, mild hypothermia. Derek appeared, looked at me, but didn't say anything. I resigned the next day, but the story is not over. 2 weeks later, I received a call, unknown number. Wait, silence on the other end. Then, that sound. Ping, ping, ping. The faucet is dripping, and a breath. The same breathing. I hung up. I blocked the number. But I still get calls, always in the early morning, always between 2 and 3 a.m. I'm never answering anymore. Sometimes, when I'm home alone, I hear wet footsteps in the hallway. I see handprints on the bathroom mirror when I wake up. I feel that chill, that presence. I move to a different city. I change jobs, but it doesn't matter. Something came with me. Something was waiting in that bathroom. Something that didn't want to be alone. And now, I don't think I'll ever be there again. Last night, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. I went to the bathroom, and when I looked in the mirror, there was a silhouette behind me, tilting the head, observing. I won't turn back this time, because I already know. It doesn't matter where I run, it will always be there. If you work the night shift, tell me where. And if you've ever been through something similar, you already know what to do.